Okay, so last week we began this process of leveraging up. And leveraging up is about owning your value in a greater way. And the experiment that we're having for the next couple of weeks is to really see how much you can own your value to take it higher than it's ever been before, right? And so the affirmation that we gave last week was, I'm a person of great value. I'm an expression of God. Anybody remember that one? Let's say it together. I'm a person of great value. I am an expression of God. So what we want to see is how much can you leverage up your value and just live at a higher sense of value. Now, the problem with this, or the challenge with this, is that most of us were taught that it's really not okay to think too much of yourself. Right? It's not good form. You know, it's not polite, it's not spiritually right, it's not morally right, it's just not done, right? We're supposed to think kind of highly of ourselves, but just not too highly of ourselves. It's just bad form. It's egotistical. Right? So we're supposed to believe that we're created in the image and likeness of God, but just not too much God. Right? So we're supposed to feel good about ourselves, but not too good about ourselves. Right? And so we're in this kind of schizophrenic place of hearing over and over again that we're created in the image and likeness of God, but we're not supposed to really believe it. We're not supposed to really integrate it. We're not supposed to let it really affect how we see ourselves too much. We're supposed to feel good, but just not too much better than your neighbor, right? Because you know what would happen if you started feeling too good about yourself. You'd go insane with ego. You know, you would just be running around just doing crazy stuff. You'd be believing crazy stuff. You'd be doing crazy stuff. It's just, you know, you might be like Jesus, you know, just doing crazy stuff all over the place because you began to believe too much in yourself. And so where we are right now is this dilemma of experimenting, if you will, in what's the highest level of value that you can hold before you go over that line that you've made up for yourself. And I want to see if you keep pushing the edge, how much better your life works in every way. Because the more you value yourself, the better your life works. And if you're willing to keep pushing the envelope and keep expanding that value, you begin to notice that your life works in greater and greater and greater ways. And it just gives you permission to keep pushing the value even further out. So I want to confront you tonight. You know, one of my classmates when I was in seminary said our job is to comfort the afflicted and to inflict the comfortable, right? So I want to confront you tonight and really invite you to go just maybe a half step beyond your edge when it comes to your own value. And I want you to even be willing to risk being slightly egotistical tonight, to value yourself that much, to see if it doesn't make room for more God. Because in my experience, the people that value themselves the most actually don't become egotistical. As they begin to value themselves more and more and more, they actually begin to value everybody more and more and more. They begin to see the value in all of humanity. And it doesn't really become about them, it becomes about the possibilities for us. And so, but that's our fear, and so we have to kind of confront our fear. We have to go in the direction of that. But as we get closer to that, we realize it was always an illusion. Have you ever had something like that in your life? That you've had a fear or something, and as you get closer and closer to it, you realize, oh, it just kind of evaporates. I'm a person of great value. I'm an expression of God. Will you say that with me? I am a person of great value. I am an expression of God. One more time, like we actually mean it. I am a person of great value. I am an expression of God. Now, I want to talk about your work, our work, whatever your work is. Even if your work right now is retirement, I want to talk about value in the context of our work. Because one of the things that significantly happens is as we begin to increase our value, it really begins to change and impact the work that we're doing in the world. Because as you become internally more valuable, the work that you're willing to do, the work you're accepting to do in the universe actually begins to expand. So one of the places I want to start is really looking at, as you become internally more valuable, as you can hold more and more the value of who you are you willing for your work then to begin to transform as your value increases? Because the underlying premise is, as your value goes up, so do all the blessings in your life. And I've seen that happen too often, that as your value goes up, all the other blessings in your life go up at exactly the same ratio. Because as we talked about last week, it's a mathematical formula, really, that what we know in mathematics is that both sides of the equation always have to equal. So if one side of the equation goes up in value, guess what has to happen to the other side of the equation? It also has to go up in value. It has to happen. So as your value goes up, the other side of the equation has to go up. So the blessings in your life have to go up. Now, the question that I have for you, let's go to, I don't know which is, the question, does your value and work slide? Do you have that one? There he goes. There it is. It worked. I love it when it works. Does your value create our work, or does our work create our value? It's not a trick question. It's really what I want us to ponder tonight. Does our value create our work, or does our work create our value? Anybody want to vote? How many want to vote for A? That our work creates our value. No, I said it backwards. That our value creates our work. How many want to vote for that our value creates our work? How many want to vote for that our work creates our value? How many of you know the right answer is one, but you act like the right answer is the other? Okay, good. Then we're in the right room, right? Because how many of us were taught that our work gives us our value, right? So in 2008, when people were getting laid off right and left, we had people getting in line for soup kitchens that had never been in line for soup kitchens. And how valuable did they feel when they were getting in line for the soup kitchen? A lot of men took a big hit when it came to their value, because their value had always been what? Their work. And when they weren't being their poobah that they'd been for thousands of years, and they were standing in line in a soup kitchen, it was hard for them to know their value, because their value had always been those outer things. Or we have stay-at-home moms, right, who believe the work that they're doing as a stay-at-home mom is a valuable thing, but it takes a hit to their sense of value that they're not getting a check anymore, and they're not having meetings and getting attababies anymore, and their stay-at-home moms sometimes take a hit to their own value, because we're taught over and over again that sometimes we are what we do. And then the other side of the coin is sometimes when people have huge levels of success, rock stars, entertainers, huge levels of success, and they see this level of success, but there's a disconnect inside themselves, that they don't feel the value of what's being given to them. And so they become sometimes very self-destructive, because there's a disconnect internally between the internal value they feel and yet the life that they're living. Right? So I know that we think that our value creates our work, but what we act more and more like is that our work gives us our value. That we think there are jobs that are demeaning, and we think there's work that's demeaning, or we think that there's work that's beneath us, right? Because we've been taught that our work defines us. So if somebody loses their job and they need to go flip burgers for a while, they think that that's beneath them, right? Because they believe that job is supposed to be their sense of value. But what I want to talk about tonight is that what happens when our value is really internal. It's really us. And that whatever work we do the work that we do it, but the value that we derive from it comes from inside ourselves. So one of the things I want you to see tonight is that it's a huge step when you decide your own value. Because we like it when our job defines us. We actually do. It's actually easier. We go to our office, or we go to our job, or we go to our thing, and we know we're that. But when we unhook from that, then we have to be 100% responsible for deciding on our worth. And so what I want you to see tonight is, for some of us, there's a trap here. And sometimes the trap is, the more outwardly successful we've been, the more we like to define ourselves by that outward success. And the more and more, to make a real shift in consciousness, we have to be the ones that define our value. And I want you to see, as you begin to do that inner work, there is outer manifestations. It does change. We do see things differently and experience things differently. But it comes from when I'm willing to take responsibility that I'm a person of value. I'm a person of great value. I'm an expression of God. Will you say that with me? I am a person of great value. I am an expression of God. Now I want you to just I don't want you to say it louder. I just want you to turn up the juice. Do you know what I mean by that? I want you to turn up the passion, not the volume, the passion as you say that with me one more time. I'm a person of great value. I am an expression of God. One more time. Just give me a little squeeze more, right? Just a little bit more. One more time. I'm a person of great value. I am an expression of God. Now, for about the last year, I've been playing with this idea. I mean, I've really been doing my inner work on this one. I'm a person of great value. I'm an expression of God. I've really been doing my inner work. And what I would like you to know is that one of the places that has been the greatest area of transformation is in my work. And it's almost as though the universe was asking me, do you really believe that? Right? So, when I was down in Florida, ministry that I served for 4 years, we had a little challenge, little problem. And not all the deposits were getting into the bank. That's kind of an oops. That is not a good thing, right? And as the spiritual leader of a ministry that's missing deposits, it's not a good thing. That's never happened to me before. That was one of the things I wanted to never happen in spiritual leadership. And we had to make a change in an employee, and we had to get the police involved, and we had to get our insurance company involved, and it was difficult. And here I am affirming, I'm a person of great value. I'm an expression of God, right? And then literally within about a month of me affirming my little happy stance, right? It's like, we've got a problem here, Houston. Right? Then I go to the congregation, I have to tell the congregation, and we have to make changes, we get audited, it's a deal, right? Because one of the things that I've never wanted to have happen was ever to have a question about the integrity of any church that I've served when it comes to money. So as I make my stand, anything that's not in integrity comes up to be healed.